Shields up, Iron Breakers. Workan here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about the games that I'm excited for in 2020. I did delay this video as much as I possibly could because I was waiting to see if we would get more definitive dates on a lot of these games. However, that has not happened, and some of the games have actually ended up getting delayed further, so there really isn't any point in waiting to release this list. Just be aware of the fact that some of these games might end up getting delayed into 2021. Some of them might end up getting ported into the next generation of consoles, so I just don't know. But anyway, these are the games that I'm excited for 2020 and beyond, let's put it like that. I did talk about this list yesterday on my Twitch stream, so if you were there, you probably already know which are the titles that I'm going to be talking about. However, the order, I kind of messed it up a little bit, but it's not really super relevant because I just don't know enough about a lot of these games yet to really make an informed decision on where I would place them on an ordered list. So don't take the order that these things are in too seriously. And finally, in case you guys are wondering, like, where's games like Final Fantasy VII, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition that you said you were really excited about? I already did a video talking about like re-releases, remakes, remasters, and all of that I'm excited for in 2020. So all of those games are there, and these are pretty much all new games that are coming out for 2020. And finally, even though I'm pretty excited about all of the games in this list, I'm aware of the fact that I most likely will not be able to play a lot of them, quite simply because these are the realities of content creation. I need to play the games around which I can create content, and not all of these games are going to be appropriate for me to create content because not everyone in my audience is going to enjoy them, but I still am excited for at least playing a little bit of these games. So let's get started with number 15. GENSHIN Impact. And I understand that there's a lot of people out there that think that this is just like a blatant ripoff of Breath of the Wild, but I don't necessarily think that that is a bad thing. A game being inspired by one of the best games of the decade is not what I would consider to be a bad game. It actually looks pretty interesting. One of the things that kind of has me hesitant is how much they kind of hold you by the hand from the gameplay demo that I have seen. They suffer from that usual thing that you have in a lot of Japanese games where they really just like lead you down the nose and just like, oh yeah, here's how this thing works and how this thing works, and they try to just like front load every possible mechanic in the game, and that kind of turns me off a little bit. But at the end of the day, I like the gameplay that I've seen. It looks interesting, but I do kind of need to play it myself to figure out if that is something that I would enjoy or not. But you know, so far looks pretty decent, and I want to be checking it out.
Oblivion, or make a stand and fight for survival. Step into the light, young hero. Be brave.
Coming in at number 14, we have Bravely Default 2, which has a weird title because there's already two Bravely Default games, which are Bravely Default and Bravely Default the Second, which means that this Bravely Default should be called the third, but it being called Bravely Default 2 is kind of weird. But anyway, I never really got around to finishing Bravely Default 1 or the second, mostly because I don't spend a lot of time playing 3DS when I'm home because I really want to play stuff on the big screen, and I really only play my 3DS when I'm out and about. But what I did play of Bravely Default, I greatly enjoyed, so maybe I'll end up playing this one quite a bit more on the Switch. I'll definitely try, but we'll see what happens. Either way, I really liked what I did play of Bravely Default, so I could not make this list and not include this title.
1,000-year war, just to start the apocalypse.
Beautiful, deadly, right in our way. That's about right.
Coming in at number 13 is GODFALL, which is basically a looter slasher, which is kind of like a Destiny but with swords. And the reason I'm excited about it is because I tend to enjoy these particular looter games depending on the business model that they end up doing, because a lot of these games nowadays, the looter type games, they end up going down the route of, oh, here's this season pass, this battle pass, this pass thing, which is almost like, hey, we really want to charge you a monthly fee, but we can't because you guys don't like that, so instead we'll charge you this fee every so many months. And that particular business model really turns me off. Like, I don't know about you guys. I know a lot of people do appear to end up buying into this kind of stuff. Like, I myself have bought into it when it comes to games like Dauntless, for instance. But yeah, it still kind of turns me off because it's almost like, oh, I should be playing this game because I paid for this thing. And I don't like that feeling. I don't like that forced feeling of wanting to play a game because I bought like a pass or something. I don't know if Godfall is going to do that particular business model because I haven't looked into Godfall all that much. Like, it looks good, it looks interesting, but most of these looter multiplayer type games are going to be lower on my list because I am extremely wary of what their business practice is going to be. By the way, all the games up until now, their only release date is like, it's coming out in 2020, so Genshin Impact 2020, Bravely Default 2 2020, Godfall 2020, most likely a launch PlayStation 5 title because it was the first title that came with a PlayStation 5 logo. So what I'm more interested in knowing about Godfall right now before I even look at the gameplay is its business model, but we shall see if it is a consumer-friendly business model or something else, and at that point I might just end up not even playing it altogether. So we'll see how that pans out, but for now it's still interesting to get excited about. Coming in at number 12, we have Outriders, which is going to be coming out in September 2020. This is another looter shooter. This is a third-person looter shooter. I'm curious to see what this particular studio is going to do with it because this is from People Can Fly. These are people that worked on Bulletstorm, which is a game that I actually enjoyed quite a bit, as well as a bunch of other titles they worked on. But yeah, it's another looter shooter. It's a 3-player co-op. That's actually another one of the reasons why I'm excited about it, because I have 2 friends that I play games with a lot. Like, we usually hang out on Saturday evenings. We take our PS4s over and we just like have kind of like a PS4 LAN party type situation. And yeah, Outriders seems like it'd be a good match for those types of evenings. Whether or not it is going to be, we shall see, because there really isn't a whole lot of gameplay out there as of the recording of this video. But you know, I'm still kind of curious to see what pans out of that one. Coming in at number 11, we have Nioh 2, which is going to be released on the 13th of March. Now, I played quite a lot of Nioh 1. I love playing the original Nioh. I think it was a fantastic title. I loved the first DLC, and then when they got to the second DLC, I hated it so much that it completely burned me out of the entire game because it's one specific mechanic, and those of you that know me, you guys already know exactly what I'm talking about, and I don't want to get too much more in depth with that, but I think that enough time has passed that I should give Nioh 2 another shot. And, well, another shot. I should give Nioh 2 a shot. But a lot of people have been asking me also, hey, Rurikon, did you play the Nioh 2 alpha, the beta, all of this stuff? And it's like, betas and alphas nowadays kind of tend to burn me out because, like, then I already know what happens on a certain level of a video game. So I played the initial alpha, looks good. It hasn't really evolved as much as I would like to, which is okay, because if it's not broken, it doesn't need to be fixed. I was expecting it to be a little bit different, a little bit more evolved. I've heard that there's quite a lot of new stuff in some of the later betas that I ended up not playing, and that's cool, because if there's a lot of new stuff, that means that there's a lot of new stuff for me to discover when the game actually releases in March, so I'm definitely going to be checking that out.
Initiating combat mode.
Go!
Destination confirmed.
Woo! That's what I'm talking about! Alright, in and out, bitches!
Coming in at number 10, we have Cyberpunk 2077, which was recently delayed to September 17th. And this game, I'm pretty excited about it, mostly because of the story aspect of it, being able to, the dialogue choices that you get, and all of that, kind of like the branching story paths that you'll be able to get on this futuristic city. The sci-fi aspects of it are pretty cool. I'm still a little bit iffy on whether or not I'm going to enjoy the combat, mostly because you guys know I did didn't enjoy the combat of The Witcher 3 all that much. I enjoyed everything else around that game. The combat was the one thing that kind of held me back, but I would love to dive into Cyberpunk 2077 and see what they've been working on all of these years, so it's definitely going to make my list. It's going to make pretty much everyone's list. I just think on a lot of lists it's going to be a lot higher, and the reason it's not a little bit higher on mine is mostly because of my expectations in terms of combat, because I'm a very much gameplay driven gamer. Like, I just want, you know, really solid combat and stuff like that, and I'm to my expectations, I didn't really like The Witcher 3 combat that much. If you did, there's nothing wrong with it, it's whatever, but it's just for me personally, right? Coming in at number 9, we have No More Heroes 3, and it's actually a lot lower on the list than I would have expected personally, and that is because the previous No More Heroes entry, which was kind of like an offshoot, it was a completely off-the-cuff thing with a lot of collaboration between a bunch of different titles, and I felt like that kind of diluted it a little bit for me, and we all knew that it wasn't going to be the No More Heroes that a lot of us wanted, but I just did not expect it to be what it was, which is not a bad thing. It's just something that I actually didn't want, and I ended up not really finishing it. What was the name of it? I can't even remember the name of it right now, but like, I know that the video that I made of it was like not No More Heroes. That's what I call that video. But looks like No More Heroes 3 is going to be returning to its roots with the, you know, the traditional wrestling moves and the third-person hack-and-slash action, which is what I am there for. Like, as far as I'm concerned, for those of you that did not play No More Heroes on the Wii, you need to understand that No More Heroes had, in my opinion, the best implementation of motion controls that I've seen to date. And the reasoning behind that is because they didn't wanted you to move your hand all the time. It's like only for the final really impactful moves, and to me it made a big difference. Like, it was very well done, and I hope that they do something similar to No More Heroes 3 because I just can't wait to get my hands on it. Not to mention that some of the trailers around this title are just like flat out ridiculous, which is exactly what a lot of us want.
You can't stop this.
Coming in at number 8, we have The Last of Us 2, which is going to be coming out on the 29th of May. I really enjoyed The Last of Us 1. I enjoyed The Last of Us DLC. Even though it is one of those games that I never really went back to after I finished it, it was still a very good experience the first time around. It is really cool storytelling. It was actually one of the zombie games. I say zombie in between air quotes because I know they're not actually zombies, they're fungi, the cordyceps, all of this stuff. But it was one of the few games in that genre that I greatly enjoyed. And I'm very curious to see what they're going to come up with for The Last of Us 2. As a matter of fact, I've actually stayed away from a lot of the trailers to go in completely fresh because I do feel that trailers nowadays reveal just a little bit too much. So yeah, let's keep this particular segment short and move right along. Coming in at number 7, Tales of Arise. The Tales of series is actually one of those titles that, one of those franchises that I tend to get into and not really be able to finish because, again, that's one of the realities of content creation. I need to be playing games that I can create content around, and it's very hard to create content around the Tales of series because it's very much a story-driven type of game, and while I think they are tremendously fun, I love the combat system in the Tales of games, I don't usually end up with a lot of content that I can create around them, right? But at the same time, it's like Tales of Arise looks like it's going to be a bit of a departure from the traditional Tales of formula. Looks like it's going to be a little bit more action-based, which is right up my alley as far as I'm concerned. So very excited to see Tales of Arise. It is currently planned for 2020, but doesn't really have a fixed date. in at number 6, Bayonetta 3, which is still planned for 2020. We don't have a fixed release date, but I suspect we should be getting one soon. And I love Bayonetta, the original one. I think it's freaking amazing. I love Bayonetta 2, and, you know, Bayonetta 3 is pretty much a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. You guys know I love Platinum Games' outings, and Bayonetta is just one of the best spectacle fighters that we have right now in gaming. So Bayonetta 3, pretty much a no-brainer. If you're into spectacle fighters, then you know you're going to enjoy Bayonetta 3. Coming in at number 5, Babylon's Fall, which, you know, also has a scheduled 2020 release, no real fixed date. Babylon's Fall is another outing from Platinum Games, and the combat on it looks friggin' sweet. It's going to be another spectacle fighter type of game. It will probably feature some light RPG type elements, I think. We see some stuff around the character during the gameplay that they've shown in their latest trailer, which reminds me a lot of the Final Fantasy 15 Royal Armory stuff that you had around Noctis, and I'm really into that. Also, he's got like these tendrils that he can like grab enemy weapons and do stuff with them, so I can't wait to get some friggin' crazy combos going in Babylon's Fall, and let's hope they do make it out this year. And that is a game that I'm going to be getting into quite a bit, and hopefully they learned a lot from the storytelling that they've done with Nier Automata, and we got like that type of storytelling in there as well. Like, that would just be a
Boots. They know he is coming.
Coming in at number 4, we have Ghost of Tsushima. Now, I did a video analysis when this game was originally revealed at E3. I don't remember exactly which year it was revealed, but you can still find that video analysis in my channel. And since then, I've kind of, again, it's another one of those games that I'm just steering clear of trailers, dude, because trailers reveal way too much. There is a leak which revealed a potential date of August 30th, which would kind of make sense to come around the you know, the summer lull, which usually you don't have a lot of games coming out in the summer, and Ghost of Tsushima could really benefit from coming out around that time. But I think a lot of us are also waiting to see like what's going to happen in terms of the PlayStation 5, and I think that PlayStation needs to reveal what's the plan specifically for a title like Ghost of Tsushima and even Last of Us 2. They need to reveal what the plan is for PS5. Like, are they doing like a special PS5 edition? Are we just gonna get like a special patch for higher visuals? Because we already know the PS5 is gonna support backwards compatibility with PS4, so even if you buy the game for PS4, it'll work on PS5. But do they have anything special planned for these titles, which I kind of feel like they should, like high-res texture packs and that kind of thing to make the game run 4K 60, look crispy as fuck on the PlayStation 5, dude. So yeah, Ghost of Tsushima, I'm super hyped about it. Looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and yeah, of course it had to make the list, like no questions asked. Coming in at number 3 and surprising absolutely no one, considering that I just released a video talking about this game not even that long ago, is GRANBLUE Fantasy Relink. Now, there is a theory right now that GRANBLUE Fantasy Relink is most likely going to be released a bit after GRANBLUE Fantasy Versus, which is the fighting game, which, by the way, don't get these two mixed up. There are currently 2 GRANBLUE Fantasy games in development for the consoles. One of them is GRANBLUE Fantasy Versus, which is a 2D fighter, and the other one is GRANBLUE Fantasy Relink, which is what we're talking about here, which is a third-person co-op hack and slash, and it looks friggin' sweet. As a matter of fact, if you haven't watched my GRANBLUE Fantasy Relink video that I did not so long ago, you should check it out. I'll link it like top right-hand side of this video. But yeah, I'm pretty hyped about GRANBLUE Fantasy Relink. As a matter of fact, I've been pretty hyped about this game since the cancellation of Scalebound, because that is when I was made aware of the fact that Platinum Games was working on this game. Since then, however, Platinum Games is no longer working on this game. This is exclusively a Cygames outing at this point, but it definitely looks like they capitalized on, you know, the quality that we know from Platinum Games' fighting, the combat style, with the cool animations and all of that jazz, because it looks very much, you know, in the vein of in the particular vein of Platinum Games' Spectacle Fighters outing. At least the types of animation, the flashy skills, all that stuff is looking really good, and I just can't wait to get my hands on it.
To awaken. Fix your eyes forward, lest you overlook the traces. Keep your ear to the ground, lest you lose the trail. We are the shield that shall not break. We are the sword that shall not bend. O God of steel and fury, give us flesh to hunt from blood.
Coming in at number 2, we have a game that I've been excited for quite some time now. Again, there is a video talking more in depth about this particular game. I've done it a while ago, and it is Project Awakening, which is interesting because you have this developer that just kind of shows up out of nowhere and takes up 2 of the top 3 spots in my top list for 2020, which is Cygames. The gameplay footage that we've watched, which is not like, you know, we don't really know how much of it is gameplay, how much of it is cutscene. It does look like it's gameplay because there's some imperfections in the animations and all this stuff. So it just looks like it's something right up my alley, something really almost Monster Hunter style, Dragon's Dogma style. But yeah, this is a game that I'm very curious to check out. It might come out in 2020, it might come out in 2021, but it has been, the gameplay video that you guys are watching has been released for a while now, so it would make sense for us to know more soon. Potentially maybe at E3 we'll know more, but I do believe there is a possibility of this game coming out in 2020. Maybe even a launch title for the next generation, we shall see, but dude, hyped as hell for Project Awakening.
I doubt you could even imagine it. That which commanded the stars, giving life its fullest brilliance. The Elden Ring. Oh, Elden Ring. Shattered by someone or something.
And finally, coming in at number 1 and surprising absolutely no one, Elden Ring. I mean, you guys know, my boy Miyazaki, man, I just freaking love everything that Miyazaki works on, and Elden Ring is pretty much a no-brainer for me. I think that From Software is usually at their best when they are working on new IP, which is why I'm always excited when there's new IP coming out of From Software, because you know, a lot of companies they do this thing where it's like, okay, now we do the number 1 and the number 2 and the number 3. And a lot of companies do it well, like for instance the Monster Hunter team gets better every time. But I don't think that is From Software's specialty. Like, I think Dark Souls 2 was clearly not as good as Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 3, even though it was better, was still not as good as Dark Souls 1. But on the other hand, games like Bloodborne and Sekiro were friggin' amazing and really pushed that particular genre forward with different mechanics and stuff like that. So Elden Ring is definitely something that is just on my list by default and at number 1. The current leaks seem to point to a potential June 2020 release, but we shall see if that is the case or not, because there is no hard date on it yet. It would have made sense if the game came out around March, but I think if the game was coming out in March, we would have known something by now. Watch them release like something immediately after I upload this video. But if the game was coming out in March, I think that by now we would have known the release date. However, if it's coming out in June, I think it makes sense, and it could potentially be announced at I believe there's going to be like a PlayStation event at some point in February, most likely, and that could be an event where we might get some news in regards to something like Elden Ring, potentially. I don't actually know. I don't have any inside information, but we shall see if that is the case or not. Either way, that is my list for 2020 and beyond. Are there other titles that you personally are excited for that are not included on both my lists? Do remember that there's two lists. There's the remasters, re-releases, and all that stuff, and then there's the actual new games list. Let me know what you are excited for in the comment section down below. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit it up with a like. If you did not enjoy this video, if you completely disagree with my list and you hate my goddamn guts, hit the dislike button because feedback is important. If you enjoy my content, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, all of that usual jazz. I'll see you guys on the next one. Stay strong and may your shields never break.